Who is Representative Doug Bankson? Well, good morning, everybody. This is the morning. This is yeah, okay. This is You Can't Make This Shit Up. I'm your host, Joel Hoxley, David Washington, and our special guest, Representative Doug Bankson. Could you
Hello.
introduce yourself, sir?
Yes. Hello, gentlemen. Joel and Dave, it's great to be with you. I'm just a simple man who wants to make a difference. That's really what government servants are supposed to be. Too many professionals are there. And you'd think if they're professionals, they know more what they're doing. But frankly, when we see the state of what's going on in our nation, and I'm thankful that I live in Florida and that we can make a difference down here. So I'm just a public servant.
So you serve in the Florida House. What district and what does your district look like?
All right. Well, I'm in District 39, which we're right in the Central Florida area, mostly Orange County and a part of Seminole County. And of course, every 10 years when we have the census, there's a redistricting to make sure we all have approximately the same number of constituents. And so I have 185,000 bosses that I represent up in Tallahassee.
Well, that's fantastic. And we've had special guests, Representative Plakin, Representative Smith, Representative Amnesty. So we're really happy to have your constituents get the opportunity to hear you and our audience to be able to know who you are. But this is strictly a legislative update because you are in your office. And I want to explain that to the audience because the others have been able to talk about their political campaigns. So thank you very much. So talk about what you are proudest of that you got passed.
All right. Well, again, it's just great to be up there. We've been through 2 sessions at this point, still in my freshman years here. But I was real pleased. We got a lot done this year. I was able to pass 7 out of the 11 bills that I either directly sponsored or was a prime co-sponsor. And, being a chaplain as well in the police department from past years here, I've really, of course, wanted to support our law enforcement. I think that's the foundation of civil society. And we had a couple of bills that I'm real excited about on that. The first one is the unlawful sale of alcohol beverages, or we call it the hookah bill. Now, again, there are lawful sales, and this doesn't affect those who are law-abiding, but the problem is, even in Orange County alone, we found out from law enforcement there were 96 of these in operation. And basically, after hours, they have illegal sales. There's gang involvement. There's organized crime. And most disgustingly, there's the sex trafficking. Literally, another colleague went on one of the bus of one of these establishments, and there are girls, they're literally tattooed like they're a piece of just a meat. Basically they scan them, choose the services they want. And, this is just a disgusting thing. The bottom line is law enforcement came to us and said, what we do is more of a slap on the wrist. They simply laugh. They turn right back around and open back up again because it's lucrative to them. So we were able to give this some real teeth. The bottom line, it went from a misdemeanor to a felony. And then with repeated different instances in this, they literally can be shut down. The building can be listed a public nuisance and they can address it that way. So it was exactly what law enforcement was asking, to be able to address this and to stop this. This is statewide. So literally in our own district alone, it was very important and a top priority. Second one that we were able to give them a little more teeth in the law was the drag race bill. And nowadays you have to qualify what drag race you're talking about. This is talking about cars, vehicles on the road. But basically, we know with the advent of social media, there's a real temptation for our kids to want to get on there and build up their likes. And so they would organize these things online, literally shutting down portions of city blocks and having these drag races. And the unfortunate thing, there are really three different things. Number one, these young people, of course, watching the movie franchises and the video games, they are emboldened to think they can drive a lot better than they can. And sadly, some of them are actually losing their lives. Innocent bystanders are losing their lives. And of course, it's shutting down the flow of traffic, which sometimes can stop emergency vehicles. And, not to mention just simply being a nuisance to those who live in the neighborhoods. And again, it was basically a slap on the wrist. So we increased those who are the organizers to a level of felony in this, and those who willingly are participants, there is a greater fine on that. So really it's designed to stop these illegal activities. And again, we have drag strips for people to go and find out how fast their cars can go, but we shouldn't be shutting down city blocks. So those are two things that I'm really excited about, just for law enforcement.
Well, I know there's a couple of bills that you want to talk about that didn't get through, but we're gonna see if David has any question for you.
Okay.
And again, thank you, Representative, for being on our show. We really appreciate it, and it's my honor to be here, to be able to have this opportunity with you. My first question is more of a curiosity. Is about your co-sponsorship of House Bill 21, I believe it was, the Dozier School for Boys and the School Victim Compensation Program. I was following that in the news, and it was good to see the outcome of this particular bill.
Yeah, what I'm really grateful for is we are seeing, in the midst of the chaos and craziness, there's some common sense things that go after and make sure and address things. We have to have justice for all. And, we can't simply cover over a thing and let it be just slide back in our history. We really need to make sure that these things are addressed and that the people that are hurting are helped. And it's just tremendous, even though justice delayed is not justice denied when we address these things. So it's just great to have different bills like that. And we had over 1,900 bills that are filed, and about, just under 300 that actually make it across the finish line, waiting to see if the governor will sign them. And so there's a lot of reading, a lot of study, a lot more than you realize before, when they tell you, oh, it's just 2 months out of your life. Well, they lied. Of course, they're government. Hey, but the bottom line, it's a lot of hard work to dig in and to find these bills like this. And so it's just a privilege to be a part of those and really be a part of history at that point.
So, Representative, we call this show "You Can't Make This Shit Up," and this is something that drives me crazy. And Representative Smith asked the said, kind of led to it. Why on earth would you spend your time looking at a bill that has no Senate support? I don't understand. That slows the committee down, doesn't it?
Well, it can, but the point being there is sometimes it takes a few sessions to move a bill forward. And literally, one of my bills is, I'll bring those up as you want me to here, but one of the bills that didn't move forward because it wasn't moving on the Senate side, our committees really said until it does over there, we really don't want to move it forward here, but we were still able to work the bill with the different ones so that it's set up now, people understand it, and we're able to move it forward. But again, if we don't begin to press forward with these bills, sometimes they can take 2 and 3 and 4, and sometimes the whole term that you serve up there to get them across, and that's just part of that process. That's up to the committee heads at that point. So we do a lot of work to go, of course, to the chairs and to the vice chairs first, and then to everyone on the committee, because I want to go in there with a yes, go in knowing that it's already sold forward. And so many times they will deal with it at that point. And part of the reason we need to do that is because sometimes the Senate is saying the same thing. Well, is it moving on the House? So if we can just begin to get it moving, sometimes that will cause it on the other to start moving, and we have to work on both sides of that. So it's not just making sure that we pass it on the House side. I still need to go to the Senate sponsor and help them over there to try and get things across.
David?
I was just thinking, as you were saying earlier, Representative, it's more than just 2 months, and there's so much going on. If I am a constituent or an organization that wanted to get in front of my representative to discuss a particular issue and maybe possible legislation, What's that process with so much going on for you or for everyone? How does that start?
Well, again, we have our district offices as well, and thankfully I have my legislative aide and my district aide, Nicole and Madison. I tell people that's the left and right side of my brain, so if you want to get in my head, you talk to them. But when it comes to Tallahassee, and I encourage everyone, at least once, take a trip up there and see the process. It will make you feel more engaged. You'll be able to understand it more, whether you speak before committee or even just wave in support or against whatever it is that you're there for. We have a standing rule that anyone from my district, we make time for. Again, we're very busy up there and constantly in and out of the office or trying to work on the bills, but I want to make sure that we are able to hear the constituents and their concerns. And so we can either follow up there or we can meet them here locally in the district as well.
Well, I'm so excited that you took me under your wing and you said, "Hey, I'm going to be on your show because I'm not a constituent." But you're right. Like I think that people need to know you take care of your constituent first, and then you look at the broader picture. That's fantastic. But what I wanted to do is, David hasn't heard this, but I want you to talk about your bills in that didn't get passed that you were really excited about pushing through the next session.
All right. Yes. Well, first one, I'm an aviator as well. I wear a few different hats in my life, but having that love of aviation, I've been watching the VTOL industry, or literally vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. Now, this is really the next level of transportation and seeing our transportation needs. I mean, people are so frustrated. I was actually born in Los Angeles, in Altadena, California, and so grew up around the traffic there. And no one wants that to become the norm. And yet we're seeing our traffic grow worse and worse here in Central Florida, as well as, 1,000 people a day moving into the state. And it's crowding our roads. Rail is very expensive. And, sometimes literally they have to take properties to make it happen. Where vertical takeoff and landing vehicles are a vehicle, again, just like it says, it's able to take off vertically and then move horizontally. And so this really is, I grew up watching the Jetsons, and so it's really exciting. The technology is there. The FAA is beginning to work on the rules of the air. And so what we want to do with the legislation is make sure that there's an opportunity for those within this industry to bring that industry to Florida. My goal is to make Florida the #1 leader in the world for vertical takeoff and landing and AAM technology. And literally by doing this, we ran a bill about vertiports. It was a general aviation bill, but the focus of that was dealing with vertiports, which is where these vehicles will take off and land. And so setting up the testing standards, the different things, working with FDOT. We worked for over a year with the FDOT, and many within the industry had meetings literally from those from California to Germany, several different OEMs that are developing these different type of vehicles. And really crafting the bill. It literally, when it came to me, someone said, "You're in aviation, you might be interested in this." What we got was a version of, I believe it's West Virginia. I may be wrong. If I don't have one of my gals from the other room, tell me, is that correct? See, there's the right half of my brain going off. Nicole said, "Yeah." But here's the thing that bothered me when we got it. It was totally taxpayer funded. And I'm a low tax guy, basically, so it's like, I don't want the government to be paying for this. I don't want the taxpayer to be shouldering this. Let's let private industry in. One of my mottos is business does business better than government does business. So we want to make a way, not be in the way. So I really worked on this bill with the industry to say, what do you need? What functions and focuses here? And then also with the local municipalities to have their say, to make sure this works for everyone as this begins to find its way in the public vernacular and people begin to understand and say, yes, I'm comfortable with this. So really, we had a bill that we had crafted, worked hard, got right up to the finish line, and there was one lobbyist representing one firm that just basically didn't agree with the rest of the whole of the industry, and without going into all the reasons why, and they just kind of got in the ear on the Senate side. And my Senate sponsor, wonderful legislator, wonderful woman, but we just couldn't come to eye on these particular issues. And so finally they made changes to our bill and then sent it back to us, and I just had to say we will not concur. Of course, The House always loves that. They were all cheering, send it back, you know. And they said, rarely does a freshman do that because we want to get those wins. But the bottom line is it just wasn't right. I'd rather get it right than rushed. The good news is we have, because of going through this process, there are those there on the Senate side that they said, listen, next year we're ready to get this thing across the finish line. So we're going to continue to have meetings throughout the summer here. Again, aviation and aerospace, all of those things, I think they're tremendous industries that help our economy here in Florida. And I want to do everything I can to support those. So I believe we're going to see that one move forward.
Awesome. David?
I'm just taking it all in. It seemed, incredible. And we'd like to call ourselves the political innovators. And it sounds like there's a lot of innovation going on with that particular issue. Do you often see your peers in the legislature, and well, in the years that you've been there, since 2022, do you see any innovation as far as moving forward in just some of the things that Florida can do that no other state is doing?
Again, for me, aviation is one of those tremendous fields. I've often said that Florida's shaped like a runway anyway. So being able to do that, of course, our weather is very conducive to that. Anything that really fits our climate is something that we can focus on. We really need to make sure to support our agriculture. That's very important. Again, having the ability to grow and seeing the food supplies beginning to dwindle and, foreign entities trying to come in and buy up the farmlands. I think we really need to watch out and make sure to protect that. I believe there's some things we can do in the area of energy production. Again, there's a real push for wind and solar. The problem is they are not consistent. They can never meet the full demand. And, we don't want to be like we've already seen in California and Texas, where they've had these brownouts and literally they're saying go electric, but by the way, you can't charge your vehicle. So until that, technology, these different things can catch up, we shouldn't force a market. Let it be market driven. And the bottom line is there are clean sources of energy that are natural gas is very clean, nuclear. That's something that we've been discussing. Also, just in the area of taxation, again, I'm always looking to how can we reduce those taxes. The commercial property tax, that to me is insane. We shouldn't have that at all. We were able to knock that down, I believe, to 2% this year. And we want to get rid of that completely, but we want to do it in just a fiscally wise manner. You can't slam on the brakes and shove everybody into the windshield always. So, do that in the way that's incremental and yet moving aggressively as we can. But there's also talk, even in Ways and Means, I was thrilled to hear this, of really looking at our tax structure to try and restructure it, not a state tax, which I'm so thrilled we don't have that here, but to get away from the property tax, because the bottom line is you don't really own your property. And what we've seen going on with insurance and taxation, and with the inflation that's going on in Washington, it's for seniors. It really concerns me. They're on fixed incomes. Now that same amount that could take care of everything, there's not enough. And so if for some reason they fell behind, they can lose a home that's completely paid off just simply because of property taxes and insurance issues. So, we're looking at those things. I've even heard rumor that we may call another special session. I'm game for that because I want to keep addressing that issue and keep fighting for Floridians. I live here too. I feel that same thing, when we see that happen. So being willing to think outside of the box, to me, that's just, political science 101. We have to be willing to think and relook at it like the old adage, the child going to the parent, why do you cut the end off the ham? Well, I don't know. Grandma always did. Ask her. Grandma said, well, my pan was too short. I don't know why she does it. So again, sometimes things that were done in the past worked in the past, but we need to look at it. How does it operate now?
I want to know who Representative Doug Bankson is, because I know that you wear many hats. I don't think our audience knows that you're a pastor. I believe you did mention that you chaplain at the police department. Tell people in the short time we have left, who is Doug Bankson, why he actually ran for this office. That's all I need to know.
All right. Well, again, yes, I am a pastor. I've been here. We founded a church together with a handful of people and a whole lot of faith. And we've grown to a church that really is involved in our community. I just believe if you're not making a difference, what difference do you make? You know, and so we've always taken a very practical approach to affecting the lives around us. You know, I tell people, well, I'm in insurance business, the afterlife insurance, again, caring for people's souls. But you know what? It matters, the day-to-day lives. And you see so much the fiscal effects of people. I want good, sound fiscal policy. And I just kind of have that gear, very much an not entrepreneurial spirit and heart, and want to see people succeed. So I got involved, my goodness, I think back in the early 2000s, about 2003, 2004, in our Chamber of Commerce. I've been on the board until this last year, and was actually a past chairman of the board. And because it matters how people are able to fund themselves. It matters that small businesses can do business, and we make sure that, again, that law is not in the way, it helps to make a way. Basically, creating a greenhouse where things can flourish, creating an atmosphere where business can do well, where people can do well. So those things really move me and motivate me. I served for 6 years locally here in the city of Apopka as a city commissioner and vice mayor. And again, got involved there because of just the concern of how we are dealing with our fiscal policy. Really pushed forward and was so thrilled before I left to be able to establish a reserve policy, which I think is so important. And again, we're seeing those same things up at the state level. And so really just having that heart, knowing that it affects real people's lives. And I'm also a collaborator. I grew up traveling and singing gospel music early on in my life. Just a lot of neat things there. I got to see all of the things in the U.S. that people just read about as we would travel, you know, growing up. And so really, again, just a heart for people and want to see people succeed. And that's what moves me.
Well, Representative, you just left the wide open for David's gotcha question.
All right.
So, I'm sorry, we don't usually have a gotcha question.
I'm not afraid of the
You
gotcha.
mentioned something and I saw his eyes light up. So
You saw that, Joel. It's not your usual gotcha question. It's just something that I pick up in conversations or something that I've learned about our guests. So you traveled a lot, Representative.
Yes.
What was your favorite state? And you can't say Florida or you can't say California.
Well,
you were traveling with your family. What's your favorite state to visit?
Favorite state? Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you're looking at government, that changes the whole scenario. Favorite. I mean, quite honestly, I will say Florida. And honestly, I was born in Southern California. I tell people I moved from the West Coast to the best coast. I love Southern California, the climate, but it's just gotten so crazy. The politics is just, it's a shame. It's sad to me to see that happening. And, but again, we traveled here first back in 75, I believe. And I just fell in love with the state back then. And eventually we moved here. And so this really is home. I do enjoy Hawaii. I did get to go there one year on our 20th anniversary, my wife and I. We've now been married. It'll be our 37th year of marriage.
Congratulations.
And 4 grown kids, 3 wonderful grandkids. And so we really did enjoy that, the beauty there. I'll tell you the awesomeness of the Arizona Memorial and going there, and just the solemnness of knowing our men that fought for us, that died there at Pearl Harbor. That's always, I love history, and to go there and stand on that memorial and read those names and just stand in silence over that watery grave and know the cost that was paid for us to have the liberty that we have. That's why it's worth fighting for. And so that was real special. I also have an aunt that was actually born and raised there too.
Okay.
Wow, I don't know what happened. My eyes are watering. You got me teared up on that one, David. So where do I want to go? Oh, I have to ask this very carefully. So I'm going to be very clear. So one of the requirements to keep this job is to go to the Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. Have you done that? And has anybody else done that in your district?
We still have time before we finish, going through that process. There's a certain date in June that we register all of those things. There is someone else that is in the race on the other side of the aisle. And so I look forward to the challenge of that. I like getting before people. I like talking. I like going door to door and talking with people and hearing them and letting them hear what I stand for. And so I feel like we did a good job last couple of sessions. And I look forward to that part of the process of just letting people know, here's what I stand for.
Whatever that is. Yeah, awesome.
And I do have one other bill. I don't know if we have enough time, but my gold and silver legal tender bill, that one, I can't wait to move that one forward.
Can you tell us a little bit about it? I know
Sure,
we have maybe a minute.
Okay. So the bottom line is this: we know that our dollar is under attack worldwide. The BRICS nations are beginning to try and move the world economy away from our dollar. So we need stability. For 190 years, we depended on our dollar was backed by gold and silver. Okay. And in 1971, that changed, of course, with President Nixon tying it to Saudi oil. Now we know that we don't have that same stability. But gold and silver have a quality. They are a tangible asset. So this bill, the Gold and Silver Legal Tender Bill, or the Sound Money Act, basically in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, we as a state have a right to declare gold and silver, and only those two precious metals, as legal tender. If anyone looks on their dollar bill, it says this bill is legal tender, which makes it cash. It makes it transactional. Right now, gold and silver, again, is part of a portfolio, but it's a commodity. And if you have it and you want to actually use it, you have to transfer it into a cash. And at that point, there's capital gains tax. Again, government getting their pound of flesh. And so what this bill does by declaring gold and silver as legal tender, it gives it the same facility as cash. And so it makes it transactional. Two other parts of the bill deal with having a depository. And other states have built theirs. Texas spent $25 million. I didn't want to do that to Florida taxpayer money. So what our bill did was actually authorize the CFO to contract that. So basically, we can have the depository without having the weight of the purchase of it, of the building of it. And there's security in it. There's the insurance, everything that you would want and expect. The third thing is making it transactional. This is the exciting part. Basically, just as we use a debit card now for our dollars that are in our cash account, we can use that for gold and silver that would be in our account. That gold and silver is not fractionalized. You don't have to worry about a run on the bank because yours is yours. You can take it out anytime that you want, or you can leave it there. And literally, the final thing, it removes the penalty for buying less than $500 in the state of Florida. Right now, there's a tax on that. This would remove that, so anybody can buy it in any increment that they want, begin to build that as a stability factor. Also, you can do transactions between two parties that are in agreement. So everything about this is great. And just last thing about that, just a way of illustration. In 1979, the average home was $75,000. That same home today is about $513,000. However, in gold in 79, it was 268 ounces of gold. Today, 268 ounces of gold. It fluctuates, but it's held its buying power where the dollar has lost its power because of inflation. So all of these things, it just makes it a real tool, and it pushes back against the CBDC, government controlling everything we buy and sell.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Representative, you can talk all day, but it's your left and right brain that's going to come in and take you off.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I just wanted, I heard about your bills, and I wanted to share that because this is the innovation. This is the thinking that's there. You have great leadership in that district, and I would hope that, you look to the representative. We need to like these. We need to share these. We need to get these out. So we're going to make sure that you have a copy, Representative. But I just want everybody to know this was exactly what you guys have given us. You've given us great updates, and we want to be able to support you. I'm going to actually have your campaign stuff on the initial card so that we can get that information out about the Secretary of State. So, David?
I'm just amazed. I'm looking forward to the upcoming legislation. I think it's it's innovation, as we discussed before, and of course, the aviation legislation that you discussed. This is stuff that people really are not aware of. It should be aware of, and we really appreciate the fact, Representative Bankson, that you shared this time with us. This is great. I really appreciate it.
And we would like to have you back, and maybe not in your office. We can really talk. I mean, listen, we really appreciate you coming up, and you get the final word, sir.
All right. Well, again, I just want to thank you both for having this forum. It's just so important to have free flow of ideas and information. Let people make up their own minds. I trust the American people. Well, sometimes common sense isn't as common, it seems. But I think a big part of that is because of things are so distilled and packaged because of certain agendas, rather than letting people have the information, medical freedom, economic freedom, all of these different things. And we need to fight for that freedom. Our forefathers fought for that for us. Our men and women in the service fight every day. Our law enforcement, they're out there keeping us safe. But we as the citizens, we need to make sure to stand for these things that matter, because I want to hand this America that I love to my grandchildren. And so we need to stand and we need to fight for those things. And that's why I do this.
Awesome. Well, you can't make this shit up.